want to go back to that Danny Ric crash. First lap. Whose fault was it?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Suited and Booted, the Formula One podcast. My name is Daniel Woodruff, one of your hosts today, and with me in the studio is...
Jasmine Jafar.
We're on tan.
Hello, gents. So for all of you avid listeners of our podcast, you notice that something is different today, and that's we're on camera.
Yes,
finally, after a season
and
and a
more
half.
comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit more comfortable. We've got a nice, comfy couch.
Yes.
Usually we're in an extremely cold studio. Now we're in an extremely cold living room.
Yes. Finally. I'm excited for this.
No, 100%. So usually we just roll out of bed. We're in like sweatpants. We got like caps on. And we roll up in the studio. But today the boys have done their makeup. They've done their hair. Looking beautiful.
We have to, right?
Put on a pair of trousers finally.
And we got some helmets. So we have a group chat and we were like, everybody needs to bring their helmets. I dusted mine off from the archives. Literally haven't used my helmet in like 5 years. But I was once a racing driver, as you can see. But in a typical Ron fashion, you forgot yours.
Well, I'm not a racing driver, so I don't have a helmet.
We're all retired and full-time podcasters. Okay, jumping into today's episode. This is going to be a good one because it's in Japan. Amazing tracks, amazing motorsport culture, amazing fans. I know you guys have raced in Suzuka before. I mean, what's it like?
Wow, it's awesome. It's fast, narrow, flowy,
Very technical.
and very heavy on the tires. So there's always tire degradation issues there. But yeah, I last raced there 2022.
What did you race?
GT World Challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, I drove
In
the
the
GT
Mercedes?
class. Mercedes, correct. Yeah. What about you, Ron?
Yeah, I was there in 2019,
Yeah.
pre-COVID. And amazing
were the days.
experiences.
I remember that. I remember that.
So Ron, you had a
can't wait to ask.
bit more of a memorable
Yeah.
experience than most.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
So traditionally the corner named 130R, they've now named it 130 Ron. Massive shot in free practice. Yeah, just went flat out.
Not even in the race.
Oh, so you
Not
didn't
even
go
race.
flat?
Well, no. Well, I tried.
Someone told
Didn't
you to
work.
go flat, right?
Yeah, you did. So we'll share the onboard with you guys to have a look.
No, whip it out on your phone. I mean, we'll try
Well, the
to get
producer
our
has
producers.
it. Yeah, produce like just like slip it in.
Well, okay. Well, walk us
Yeah.
through what happened. So it's a very, very fast left-hand corner.
130R is a very, very fast left-hand corner, approaching in a GT car 230 odd kilometers an hour, and dropped the right rear. I think it was like 1 centimeter on the grass, and just the rear just snapped on me, going pretty much like flat out into that corner. And thank God for Suzuka barriers. They're amazing, as we saw in Formula One this weekend.
Yeah.
Because the car came out almost unscathed.
But you did it on the first lap, right, Ron?
No, I'm not that much. I'm not that amateur. Come on.
On second lap. So 130R, 130 Ron.
Yeah.
130
second
wrong.
lap.
But
Yeah, wrong as well. Yeah.
And 130 rookie.
Rookie, exactly.
Yeah. Rookie. I mean, okay, look. Granted, it's a bit harder in a GT car
Yeah.
than in a Formula One car. Because I feel like when you're in single seater, it's like there's a bit more visibility for where your tires are. But in a GT car, I mean, you're in what looks like a road car
Yeah.
to many people.
I think it's also you have a lot less downforce than you would think you have.
Yeah.
that's true.
In a single seater, it looks difficult, but it's an easy flat.
Yeah.
I mean,
for-
particularly
even
with
for
Formula
Formula
One now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
like if you look at like Formula One Instagram, right? They always like show the heyday of F1 where back then it was a ballsy corner, right? Aero wasn't that strong. You had to lift, and if someone did take it flat out, it was like you were a racing god.
Yeah.
But now the downforce that these cars have is just kind of like, I think last year when they were there, like they were just doing it one-handed, like easy, like changing some dials on the wheels and stuff.
But there's a little bit of compression at the apex of the corner. I think that's where it bottoms out the car. And some of them running on low fuel, and when it run the car very low on their ride heights, that's when it can get a bit tricky, I think. And when it's damp, remember Ron, when the curbs gets a bit damp on the exit, or it can be a bit shaky there. But Yeah, it's technical, it's cool, but the best part, it's iconic. You know, like you've got that one lap wonder to do it flat.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of drivers.
I think in the
Yeah.
V12 era, or the V12 era, when
Rest in
Senna
peace.
was still around,
Yeah.
that it was ballsy then.
Oh yeah, 100%,
you know,
100%. Yeah.
Less aerodynamic help. It was a proper corner, and you're right. Like during qualifying, it's about who can take it flat and
Yeah.
like, really put one in there. But now it's so much. There's so much help aerodynamically. I don't even think it's a corner for those guys.
You're right. You're right.
So like I see this a lot with like the Pirelli overtake of the race or like of the season. I saw Formula One posted on Instagram recently, like I think they were posting Ollie Behrman's overtake, right?
Yeah.
And with this era of cars, like sometimes F1 will vote for overtakes where they go too wide, right? And the commentator, being the commentator, has to like over dramatize everything. It's like, oh my god, and he stuck it around the outside. What an incredible move! And I'm like, bruh, in this era of car, it's easy.
Yeah, easier.
DRS.
Easier. I mean,
Yeah.
like you have to watch out for the other car and you have to have the right positioning, but it's nothing like when we were
No.
racing junior series or racing go-karts. Go-karts, that was when you had to like, freaking send it in.
Yeah.
And like properly be like, if I don't time this properly, I'm going to crash. I'm going to fly over this guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to bend a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how you test yourself to the limit, right? Like how you can brake later than the other guy, but still make the apex and still be able to keep that position.
Yeah.
I think that's what Dan did very well in his Red Bull racing days.
I thought you were about me, man. I was like, yeah, that's all I did back in the day. When I used to race. I'm going to milk this. Yeah, people, you guys can see my helmet. I used to race, by the way.
You can still see the Red Bull mark on the helmet. That's
It looks more Caterham to me.
Peak of my career.
Steak now.
Stink. Yeah, stink.
Call me Bottas. Yeah. Wait for my calendar to come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different now. I think.
Yeah.
All the overtakes are made with DRS. It's less of a challenge.
Well, track is still challenging, and the fans, I think, in Japan are always some of the best. I mean, we know that Tifosi, if you race in Italy, you're going to see a sea of red, but I think second best to that is always going to be the Japanese. You see all the different hats and stuff they come with?
Yeah.
It's mega.
All the kids will literally come with like replica helmets and racing suits and stuff like that. I mean, it's second to none.
Yeah. Remember when we had a WEC race in Fuji, and I think the whole year we were racing, in Spa and in Silverstone and all that, and everyone would scramble to get all the autograph cards, the posters, and all that. And when we arrived in Japan, there was one straight line queue to each team and each driver. And even if it, they queue for about 20 minutes and they don't get their turn, they're like, hey, well, it's okay.
It's the culture.
It's the culture.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
Well behaved.
Yeah.
They're all brought
They
up well.
clean up the stands after
They
the
do.
race. They stay back.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's such a great motorsport culture. Like,
Yeah.
they're one of the best. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen fans standing outside our garage, like behind the pits. They can stand from 9 a.m. to 5, just waiting for
the opportunity,
the
right?
opportunity to get the driver's autograph.
And Ron still won't sign there.
I'll be like peeking from the window, like, you still there?
Well, I'm sharing a room with a whole bunch of celebs.
Where's my box of chocolates?
It actually is like, because I did a lot of autograph cards in Formula Masters as well. It does get tiring. I know people are kind of just like, suck it up, this is your job, do it. Like, there are harder jobs out there. But spending a solid 2 hours just signing autograph cards is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, these Formula One drivers starts from as soon as they leave their hotel bedroom, right?
Yeah.
The moment they're at the lobby, right up to arriving at the racetrack. I saw a video of Tsunoda just jumping over the paddock club entry, right, and just trying to avoid all the crowd.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not easy. Yeah? It's really not easy.
Like, it might get very tedious, but I've been in the point of I've been in the fans position, just waiting to get even though I don't know the driver, I just want to get the autograph.
Yeah.
And how much it means to me just to have that signed piece of paper or merchandise or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know who it is, but it means a lot. Like, wow, I got a signature from a Super GT driver or Formula One driver.
Yeah.
So it means a lot to them. But for the driver signing it, it gets tedious, but he has to understand also.
Yeah.
It's also scary going up to drivers. I remember going up to Danny Ric at the Singapore Grand Prix, and I was like,
Can I get a? Can I get a?
Yeah, and he's like, another one. All right, so let's take a bit of a closer look at the Grand Prix itself. Qualifying, going into it, a lot closer than what we've seen at other Grand Prix so far this year, which has been good. I mean, particularly from Perez, king of being bashed by us on this podcast. But he was finally within a tenth. He was actually solidly within a tenth of Verstappen the whole weekend.
He was on fire.
Yeah, he seemed comfortable since FP1. I think he's got all the right ingredients for that Japanese Grand Prix. Ferrari, on the other hand, they looked very... I mean, they came from a win, but they didn't have like a strong package, I think, from FP1.
And they were a bit late in testing as well, getting the car out in the session.
That's right. I think the rain hampered quite a lot of the teams, but they didn't look as confident as the Red Bull. Red Bull went out, bang, bang, P1. You know, it's also how you arrive that weekend.
Do you think it's because Perez has raced a lot at this track that would have brought the delta down?
I don't think so, because he's raced a lot in all the other tracks as well. He just found something in himself, or rather, maybe, Helmut gave him a bit of a slap. Like, wake up.
Helmut's been giving him a slap for the last 2 years.
But he woke up.
Yeah.
He did his job.
Yeah.
And he showed his true pace this weekend, which I think it's a reminder to the team as well. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm good. I'm the best second driver. Yeah, I'm good enough.
I'm here to stay. And I think that's
he needs
the mark.
to keep this up for the remainder of the season.
Because it is interesting in terms of some tracks that drivers go to, right? Like, I remember it during my racing days. You can do the simulator testing on newer tracks. You can do your 2-3 rounds of testing and go in, and everybody's still relatively close. But there's something about going to a track that you've actually been driving on for years and years and years, right? Like, I would go to a race in Taiwan, or I'd race in Shanghai, a track that I'm not too familiar with. I probably raced there for 1-2 years. And it's like, okay, you're comfortable, but you're not as comfortable as racing in Sepang. Sepang, I've done like 1 billion laps. I've done Sepang at night, I've done Sepang during the day, I've done Sepang backwards. So when I got to that track, it's like I can just do one session and boom, you're already like, all the way at the front. And I think people forget that about F1 drivers as well. Like, there are some tracks that they've been driving on since F4 where they know they will just be that extra bit more comfortable. And maybe Suzuka is one, but I can't remember what Perez's past junior career was.
He did GP2, I think, with Alex. He did British Formula 3 prior to that. He finished third.
It's a lot of European tracks.
A lot of European tracks. I remember when he first moved to Europe, he was living in a B&B in Germany. I think that was where he kickstarted. But to answer that, Dan, he has significant amount of experience, and he made a mark during his time at Racing Point, right, post Sauber. So,
they were a team.
Yeah, that's right. And also when he was in Sauber, he was also doing some development stuff for Ferrari. So, I think he's got a good 10-11 years of that Formula One experience. So, to come back strong in a Red Bull environment, heavily pressured alongside Max every single weekend. I mean, I think he spent more time than anyone else. So I think he's done very well that weekend.
So a little bit more interesting than the racing I've found in the last couple of races has been the kind of politics and the off-track stuff. And talking about the pressure of Perez, I feel like he's done enough to hold the seat for the rest of the year. Right, I know he's been under a lot of pressure last year. We constantly made predictions. I made predictions that he'd be gone first half of this season. I don't think so, because particularly in the Red Bull camp, there are a lot of other drivers that are really under pressure. So let's talk about Danny Ric, guy that we knew had to make a good season last year and this year. Then he broke his wrist last season. He's come back and he's getting his butt whooped by Tsunoda consistently. And then just the crash on the first lap with another Red Bull driver, Albon. I mean, do we think Ricciardo's going to go?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Danny Ric, but
Everybody likes Danny Ric.
yeah.
It's time, I think. I don't know.
Because he is old.
He is old.
By F1 standards.
Yeah.
Don't catch
But is this 3/10 deficit every single session, and
Yeah.
okay, maybe this one is slightly better, but if you guys watch the replay of the start, he had this wheel spin and all this. He had about 3-4 cars that passed around him, and
Yeah, really bad launch.
really bad. For someone at his caliber, right, to make such errors, and seeing Albon. I mean, fair enough, it's a racing incident, but he should be more well versed of that. Being in the mid pack and stuff like that. So I don't know how long they're gonna keep him. Then guys, like I noticed, RB has put Liam Lawson doing a lot of the media activities. I don't know, Instagram.
In Ricciardo's shadow. He's literally always like 2 meters away from Ricciardo.
And interviews, and he's in the pit wall and in the paddock. Like he's really there, like at any time. So I don't know whether it's worth it to actually keep Daniel going. And I don't think Daniel's cheap either, guys. He's on a pretty hefty salary for a small team. So. I think it might come to an end sooner than you expect.
It also goes to show, like the older guys. Let's say the older guys in Formula One, like Hulkenberg, Alonso, Raikkonen back then as well. In the case of like Raikkonen, for example, when he left and came back, it doesn't matter which team he's at. He's always beating his teammate, and he's always fighting there. Same like Alonso. He's probably the oldest guy on the grid right now, but he's constantly ahead of his much younger teammate.
Man, he's P5 was
P5.
Awesome. He said it was one of the best races he ever had. Like he was smiling.
And this is a guy that's won 2 world championships.
Wow, it's the best race I've ever. And we're like, whoa, you've done best races for the past, good few years, right?
Yeah. So I think the level kind of shows like. Dan, maybe there's a reason why Dan hasn't won a world championship yet. He's not a world champion material like Max or Alonso or the likes of Raikkonen.
I mean, it also just raises the different things that team bosses have to look into, right? Star power for advertising and sponsorship. Obviously, Ricciardo has that, right? Every girl I know that doesn't really watch F1 knows about Daniel Ricciardo. There's obviously the talent side of things, but there's also the age, the longevity that you're trying to plan out with a driver. And that's made more difficult with RB Visa Cash App. I still hate the name of the team. Because their purpose is a junior team to Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are not a team meant to win. Every team is on there to try to win eventually, not RB. RB, if they start beating Red Bull, there's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Right? So their purpose is to develop and groom young drivers. And Ricciardo's not young. I mean, he's 30...
Oh, he's 34, 35 now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's 50 years old in F1 age.
genuinely, it is 50 years old. So, it is time for maybe the junior drivers to come in, like Liam Lawson, particularly when there's so many young drivers
knocking on the door, yeah. But now it makes Red Bull execs realize that, hey, this Tsunoda kid is pretty good, huh?
Your hats off to him. He's
pretty
flipped it
good.
around.
And now Honda, there's news of them setting up a base in the UK for the engines. They signed with Aston. Like, I mean, he's a hot asset actually.
Yeah,
consistent
hot head and hot asset.
Correct. And like you said, Dan, it's a development team. It's a young team to develop young drivers, right? And the School of France Toss, as you call it, he has developed the product, right?
Yes.
3 years in, this is the product.
Yeah.
And he's done it.
And it's very fair in his case because when he first came into F1, if you guys remember, he's always crashing, always swearing, always in a bad mood, never getting the results. But then both the team bosses of now RB Cash App and Red Bull said that let's give him a chance, move him from the UK to Italy,
Give him a
learn
good psychologist.
their ways. Yeah. And now he's showing like he's more matured. He's not making stupid mistakes. It's good.
Swears less. Still swears.
Yeah. I mean, look at that pit stop they had. I think they leapfrogged a couple of
Oh my god,
cars.
that was
great.
unreal. And he was congratulating the team
guys,
in the pit lane.
Good job.
Yeah,
And, like,
amazing.
bang,
That
bang,
was
bang.
amazing. 2 cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Formula One world, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the Formula One world as well, I mean, I just want to talk about pit stops quickly. this Sauber Stake, all these crazy team name changes. Stake, the green one,
Yes.
the green F1 team. They did an 8-second pit stop this race, and the commentator while I was watching the Sky Sports broadcast was like, "And that's a quick stop by Stake F1." Because in the last race it was like 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
Right. And it does beg the question, like, why are some teams just so good at pit stops and why are some teams not? Because I feel like as a mechanic, bro, just practice it day and night. You know, Red Bull get it done. Williams are also very good at pit stops. I think a couple of years ago they held the record for the fastest ever one. Why do some teams just consistently mess it up?
Well, I think most of the F1 teams make an effort. I think they have a demo unit car in the factory that they, wheel in the car and keep on doing stops. But sometimes in a pressured environment, I don't think some teams adapts better than the other.
Do you think so? It's the individuals, like their mental ability to
even the team has its, team physio or performance coach. I'm sure you've seen the guys stretching in the morning, and you've seen them, getting beat up. Like getting upbeat,
getting knocked out by helmet.
Yeah, and they have certain approaches, different approaches than others. But now maybe someone like Stake, they're in this transition phase, right? They're neither Sauber, but they're neither Audi, right? And they have, they have Andrea Seidel, they have Alessandro Luni Bravi, who's the CEO. They've got a couple of CEOs in there, right? And it looks as though, well, we're going to be Audi anyway. So that it's quite a half-hearted effort, if you ask me.
Maybe there's just too much going on in the background.
Correct. That the leadership and maybe the personnel, there's going to be more on the Audi side that's going to be influenced next year. We don't know, right? And that hampers the performance. So
and they are distracted. I mean, their full-time job is being a mechanic for the car, right? They're not just like wheel gunners. They are mechanics for the car. And I feel like when you are in a transitionary stage, there's a lot of turbulence, right? And I think the best example of that, we spoke about it last episode, is Williams. You think that F1 teams with literally the hundreds of millions of revenue that they're making, the sponsorship money they're pulling in, even at the tail end of the grid, and Williams, James Vowles, is coming out and saying, our procurement system, our inventory tracking system is an Excel spreadsheet. And it's like, bruh, y'all are in like the 90s. Like, you might as well use a piece of paper to plan out, the inventory of the car. So I wouldn't put it past some of these F1 teams to just not have proper practice sessions and all of that. It's quite amazing that some organizations are actually awfully run.
Yeah. I mean, you run the AMR program in Asia, right, Ron?
Yeah.
Like, there must be a certain structure to the parts and components.
Or do you not have a
program.
structure?
Well,
We just wing it.
I think I can say this confidently, and I hope the guys over on the other side of the pond does not listen to this podcast. But for sure, we have a better inventory system than they do. And we're a privateer.
Yeah.
But I also think it's because we're a privateer, we can implement things much easier without having to go through 5 different corporate heads, getting approval from left, right, center. So I do see the struggle from then making the transition, because everybody needs approval, the entire system needs to change when it's grown to that size. But it's no excuse. They still have to do it to modernize, to make it easier for them as well.
Yeah. But I mean, the team that we're talking about, Williams in particular, I mean, fine. They are a factory, but they're also a privateer.
Yeah.
So then there's no excuse. They should have done
There's
that.
no excuse.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's amazing. It's never as good as it seems on the outside.
Yeah.
And not only just it's the same with drivers as well. You never know what goes behind the helmet.
but some teams prefer to run things traditionally, like
Williams.
Like Williams, I think some parts of Ferrari that was missing all these years are also that traditional approach, right? Pen and piece of paper. Newey has evolved over the years, but even Ferrari, right, for that matter. I remember Aldo Costa was there before he moved to Dallara, and he was in Mercedes, and we were working together at the time. And Aldo was part in some of the hypercar projects, and even he said, look, like, we did stuff on on a piece of paper. We were drawing certain hubs, wheel hubs, and stuff like that, right? So it depends. It depends what's best. But yeah, you're right. Maybe Williams need to up their game in certain approaches.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point about teams that have been around since the 80s and stuff. I was listening to such a great podcast that wasn't Suited and Booted. It was a different podcast. I'm not going to plug which one. But they were basically, oh my God, I can't remember his name. I'm blanking right now. But he's currently the chief technical officer of F1. He used to be in...
Pat Simmons?
Pat Simmons.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, listen to it too.
The big guy?
The big guy. The big guy.
Pat Simmons.
Yeah.
I'm not body shaming. But, he was a chief engineer for, like Senna, Schumacher. He's been around. And he was saying back in the day, he was in F1 when they had 60 staff.
Yeah.
Then 100 staff. And now every F1 team has 1,000 to 1,500 staff, right? So if you are a team like Williams that has been around then, or Ferrari that's been around then, you're having to not just change your car every year, but you're having to scale and have new processes for tenfold the number of people. And that's not hard, So anyway, still no excuse. So Williams, buck up. Yeah. And it does take time. I think that's the final point on that. Like, I think even though James Vowles is coming in, overhauling everything, saying, hey guys, it's December, it's the winter, y'all need to pull all-nighters, it's going to take 2 to 3 years for us to see the kind of effect that has. We're talking about Williams as well, Williams drivers. I want to go back to that Danny Ric crash. First lap, whose fault was it?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Looking from both on boards. Okay, let's start with Alex. He went for a gap. There was a gap.
There was a gap. He was actually alongside him up to the cockpit.
Yeah.
For a bit.
And then from, I think, Daniel Ricciardo's point of view, it was obviously a blind spot. He wouldn't have known that Alex was. He was looking at the apex on the left. So I think it was a racing incident, if you ask me.
Yeah, racing incident.
I agree with you, Ron. Actually, there was a gap, but I remember the show, guys. We were talking about how big these F1 cars are, and Suzuka is pretty narrow, so that corner is pretty tight to fit a few F1 cars in there. So
can barely fit 3.
I would say racing incident. Yeah,
and he was looking to the left, and he was following the natural racing line, so it wasn't like he swiped in front of.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Albon.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
That will be his defending speech.
Exactly.
When he gets called to the boardroom.
Well, okay, we got a video podcast now, so I'm gonna get a little bit interactive, guys. If you're watching this without video, I'm gonna do something where you need the video. But basically, Jazz, I'm gonna take your helmet.
Yeah, go for it.
Like, to kind of illustrate how hard it is, right? This is a racing helmet. This is the same helmet that F1 drivers use, right? That's your field of view. You can only see this much. And then Jazz has got a piece of tape over the front, like a sticker. So it means you can only see that much. And then when you're in the racing car, you're down here, your feet are here, and then you're in the cockpit. The only thing you can see are the tops of the tires. It's not like you can, you're in your road car where you're like, you're looking out your window, and you're trying to park, and you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I can see it. You literally, when you do the seat fit, you can just see the top of the tires, and that's it. And they have the halo, they have the side thing, so you can literally only see that.
Yeah.
So even if Albon came alongside and he's here, and you watch the onboard, and all the keyboard warriors that are watching F1 are like, he should have seen it. It's kind of like, bro, sit in a race car, in a single-seater car, and tell me that you're able to see Albon.
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
And even if Dan saw him... Good illustration, by the way. Thanks so much.
That's how you know I haven't been in a race car for a while.
Even if Dan did spot him in the mirrors, Alex being on the right, it's wrong because he should be looking at the apex anyway. So.
Well, anyway, it's impressive speeds as well, 120 miles an hour. So everything happens so quickly that you can just point the fingers to each other.
And he's all frazzled because he has such an awful start as well. He was literally in a swarm of bees.
Yeah. Look, shit happens.
Yeah.
Beep. Happens. Sorry.
I mean, stuff happens, but Danny Ric's still got to go.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, though, I wanted to say, even though it's none of their fault, it's not even Albon's fault, I find it funny that Albon could get into a crash and everybody is still overwhelmingly pro Albon, right? We still want Albon to stay. And I'm all for that, right? But he has been in a lot of crashes recently.
Yeah.
And again, maybe not his fault. But if it happened to Sargent or Perez and it was still not their fault, this gut feeling is like, guys are going to go, and like they're going to be like Bennett on every episode, you know, like you completely messed up. So I think it's cool to see that Albon has really done enough for us to be like, hey man, you put it in the tire wall a couple times, but you know, it's okay. It's okay. You know?
There must be something about his personality has really brainwashed him.
Or Ron, his girlfriend.
We're still waiting, Ron.
No, I won't tell on that.
Yeah, when are you going to get Lily as a guest? Going to like project her on the TV next episode?
Yeah.
One day. Yeah.
We'll get her as a
A
guest
couple more
before
crashes
Albon.
and maybe we'll get a better chance.
Hey, we really want to interview you about your boyfriend. Okay, well then let's look at Albon's teammate, Sargent. So he is in Albon's car from last race. They fixed it up, right? So he's in a botched up car,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Upgraded.
Upgraded and botched up, held together with duct tape at this point, just because it's been in the wall so much. But I mean, he's had a miserable weekend as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he tore that duct tape right off. Right.
Oh man, FP1, like no expectations. Wheel on the grass at the exit of the S's.
Did a run.
That's worse than me, I think. I had 1 centimeter. He had a full tire off.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know, guys. It's never ending. I mean, you guys should see James Vals's face after that shot.
James Vals never looks happy on a good day.
That's true. How much money do you think he brings to the team?
A lot of American money.
Yeah.
I would love to know the insurance package and whether you know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no coverage whatsoever.
I mean,
right?
if the team has all the drivers to pick from and all the, let's say, opportunity and will or ability to pick the drivers, I don't think they would have retained Logan until now.
No.
I mean, I don't understand, like, even F2 nowadays, right? The past few seasons, you have Theo Pocher winning it, right?
Yes.
And then you had that Brazilian kid with Aston. Drugovic, right? Been testing and getting all the mileage and been in the paddock. So you have two superb talents. And then Behrman gets a drive, and boom, he's got what 6 to 8 Fridays now with Haas, right? Yeah. And what about these two guys? Like, you know, don't they deserve a Williams seat? I think they do.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to knock on and wait for another Hulkenberg or a Magnussen. You know, you're trying to push the team. It's
this is one of the bits that I hated the most about when I was a driver, but what I love the most as a pundit or someone that's managing drivers, right? And we're all in this position now. When you talk to someone about Formula One, it's not just about how good you are. It never is. There are people in F1 that don't deserve to be there. There are people that have won F1 that aren't actually the best. There are people that were the best but never made it in their career, like us three here on the couch. But there's just so much more that goes into a driver's career, right? It is the money. It is a sponsorship. It is luck and timing. It is relationships and who, you know, and making the right decisions.
Yeah.
You know, like you look at Ricardo. He's made some awful team decisions, went to Renault and did all this kind of stuff that arguably ended his career, right? As opposed to him just sucking it up and staying at Red Bull. He could still be at Red Bull.
Yeah.
So with Behrman, maybe he didn't win every single F2 race and won the F2 championships like others, but he made the right moves. He got on the right junior driver development program. He met the right people. And there he is. And maybe he's going to have a more successful career and more people like him now because he's driven for Ferrari. You know, people that watch casually are going to know Behrman. I can guarantee 90% of people that watch F1 probably don't know who Theo Pocher is.
That's true.
And F1 teams are going to consider that when making a decision for who goes into a B team seat.
Yeah. It's timing as well, I guess. You know, like Piastri won it, but he had a year out as well, you know, till he jumped in that McLaren seat. But yeah, it's a shame in certain pyramids, you know, like, for example, you know, in other racing disciplines, there's a sense of promotion, right? And you're stuck in this limbo for 2-3 years, and you end up doing like Frederick Vesti, he finished second in the championship. I think he's a great talent, but then he's also doing endurance racing, right? Same with Drugovic, he's been lingering around the paddock, and now he's doing ELMS, right?
Yeah.
So, which these guys deserve to be in this top seat, but yeah, there's only a few seats, so what can you do?
And it's about the manager you have as well. I mean, look at all the Aussie or Kiwi blokes. If they get managed by Mark Webber, they're going to be in a Red Bull related seat.
Yeah.
Right? You look at Brendan Hartley. You look at Lawson. They're all linked, at least in the past at some point, to Mark Webber. And if you're with Mark Webber, you've got an into Red Bull, right? No other team. Mark Webber used to be a Red Bull driver.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even Piastri, I mean, he worked with Andreas Seidel during his Porsche WEC program, right?
Yeah.
So Andreas Seidel was in McLaren, and Piastri got the McLaren seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right place, right time. You're right there.
Yeah. Speaking of Webber, do you guys remember what the Japanese Grand Prix? Wasn't it Suzuka? It was Fuji in the rain.
And shouted.
10, 15 years ago? No, when he had food poisoning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like it was under safety car. He's like, sorry guys, I can't do this. Chundered all over himself in the car.
What a soldier.
Yeah.
What a trooper. Yeah. He did pit.
Yeah.
Speak of Red Bull drivers as well. Verstappen dominating again. I know he didn't win the last race, but clean sweep. Dream weekend. Nothing to comment.
Every weekend's a dream
Verstappen.
weekend for Max.
Yeah.
He's on fire, man.
He really is.
Wow. You watch his quali lap. As much as the car is on rails, he is on it, man.
Yeah.
Whether he's on the brakes or whether he's on the power.
And the starts as well.
A clean start, no hesitation. It reminds me of his karting days, don't you think? Like when he's on form in KZ and stuff like that. He would have pulled a 20-second lead.
Clinical.
And, he just looks back and just drives, right?
Yeah, just be like,
he just looks back. It's a trademark Max thing, if you guys remember, right? So it's implementing in Formula One. So.
Okay, let's talk about some rumors that have been emanating around this weekend. Again, what I love about F1 in the last couple of weeks, it's just so much rumors. One that I think is a little bit silly is rumors of Sebastian Vettel coming back to F1 with Mercedes. I mean, and I saw the interview. He was like, yeah, I've been speaking to Toto. And Vettel is doing his cheeky Vettel thing where he's like, but maybe I'm not talking about F1. It's kind of like, I don't think Vettel is going to make a comeback. The guy's got like a dad bod already.
Well, it happened with Schumacher, Dan. I remember when Petronas was having this big talk with jumping over from BMW to Mercedes. And then apparently Schumacher was in the sim, and he was already in Brackley. Rumored pictures, plane arrived in Oxford, Oxford Airport, and that kind of stuff. It can happen, I don't think you've suddenly forgotten how to drive overnight, right? He did a Porsche WEC test recently with Porsche Penske. All smiles, apparently.
Fast.
Apparently, he might be in one of the lineups for Le Mans. Don't know. He's been rumored to drive with Jota for a couple of months, but Jensen, obviously got the seat. Anything can happen, Dan.
Yeah.
It's a silly season. That's what they call it.
What would you guys think if Vettel did get that Mercedes seat alongside Russell?
I think it
Good
would
thing,
be...
bad thing?
I think it'd be good. I think it would... They need, with Hamilton's departure, they need a driver that can help develop the car. Mercedes is in drastic need of like a turnaround, right? Russell has proven that he's rapid, right? Russell's been whooping Hamilton pretty solidly this year. So they have that fast young driver. But in terms of someone that's been in multiple big teams like Red Bull, knows how to properly fine-tune an engineering department, working with a sporting department and all that kind of stuff, I think that's where Vettel can come in with that expertise. And no pressure. I think Vettel's kind of just like, I've won 4 world championships, man. Like, I'm just here for a paycheck and a good time.
Yeah. But Toto seems to be speaking highly of Kimi Antonelli, spending a lot of time with the family. I've seen Antonelli's family has a little GT team that they have a Mercedes running, and Toto was flew in and do a couple of laps in that. They might just put him in early, and develop him because, 2026 is a big regulation change. It's good for him to know his surrounding, know his team. He's part of the junior team. So it can go in many ways, Dan. I think at this juncture, they have a bit of time till the summer. So it'll be cool to see Vettel back in a way.
Yeah.
But it will be also cool to see a young kid, 19 years old, taking a big responsibility at Mercedes.
Do you think Behrman's going to make a debut full-time anytime soon? Because there's quite a lot of oldies.
It would
in
be
F1.
great. It would be great for him to have a full-time seat. And then to hopefully not wash it away with bad results.
Yeah.
But a lot of rookies have done that in the past.
Yeah,
and we
that's
spoke about
true.
that in the last couple of podcasts as well.
And he wouldn't be in a fast team. If he did
Correct.
make a full-time debut, I don't think they'd put him in a Ferrari.
No.
They'd
Yeah.
put him in a Haas because that's
Yeah.
the Ferrari linked team.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite viable, right? Because let's go through all the oldies. I mean, Haas is just an oldie lineup. Hulkenberg and Magnussen, two drivers that I still hold in very, very high regard. I think that they've just made very bad decisions or had bad opportunities in the teams that they were with. I think that they should have achieved a lot more in their career, but I think that they're reaching their expiry date. So Behrman could go there. Alonso's also getting a bit old, but I think he's proven that he's
still
faster
there.
than most.
Yeah.
Ricardo's old.
He's got to go.
Who else
He's
is
got to
old?
go.
Perez is getting old.
Perez
Perez is old.
Bottas is thereabouts.
Yeah, but he's whooping Joe in the bum.
Yeah.
So maybe Joe's got to go.
Joe's got to go. I mean, he
Yeah.
qualified last in the last 3
Yeah.
races.
3 seconds off.
Yeah.
We should have a F1 fantasy to see what would be your driver pick for each team. That would be an interesting conversation to have.
Next
because you
episode.
have
I was going to
yeah.
do F1 fantasy with my sister.
Yeah.
I did it last year. I came last. My sister and all of her mates just way ahead of me.
There you go.
And I was like,
That's disappointing.
this is why my racing career is ending. Speaking of racing careers ending, let's do our bin it and win it. Let's start with bin it. Let's start with bin it. I think it's going to be easier.
That's an easy one.
All right.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Sergeant.
Yeah. Okay. Unanimous.
Very coordinated.
Okay. Win it.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Science.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't talk about science
Hang
at
on.
all today.
Yeah, science.
I was about to wrap up the show, and now you've dropped this
Yeah.
bombshell. Okay.
Hang on, wait. You said signs. What did you say?
I said Max because
Max. Okay.
he didn't win last race, so
Yeah.
the fact that he had a perfect weekend, he deserves the win it.
Right.
But if he keeps his winning streak, I'm not going to vote for Max anymore. But okay, last bit on just the driver change. I can't believe we missed him out. Sainz is still beating Leclerc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ferrari is kind of just there like, mamma mia.
Podium, win podium. Boom.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, podium win. And Leclerc made a mistake. He made a mistake in the.
Yeah, he went wide on the
he
gravel,
went wide
right?
on the
Under
gravel.
pressure.
Correct. He's
That's very unlike Leclerc.
unlike Leclerc.
Yeah.
So science seems to be on a roll, but it works on some drivers when there's no pressure,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
he knows he's leaving. He's got nothing to lose. Just give it max time.
Hello, my name is Carlos Sainz, and I have no pressure.
But yeah, this guy needs to land a seat soon.
Yeah. Okay, well, if he keeps that up, he's going to be my win it for next week. Speaking of next week, or is it 2 weeks? Well, next race is 19th to the 21st of April. We will be in China, in Shanghai, a track that we've all raced at multiple times. Kind of like Sepang. It's also designed by Herman Tilke. It's just kind of like if you took Sepang and you like stretched it in certain bits. Turn 1 and 2 is identical, just different elevation change
Yep.
and different geometry.
Yeah.
But good weekend. Good to have China back.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we won't be going. You might be going, though.
It's a 50-50 chance. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if Ron does, make sure you write in your questions because hopefully we can get some pretty cool interviews, meet some pretty cool people. Even though Ron is just going to be interviewing Lily.
Will she be the... I'll find out.
Sure, she's Chinese, right?
Yes.
That's
Is she?
her.
Yes.
Is she not Vietnamese?
Ron
No,
would know.
no, she's Chinese. She's ABC. American born Chinese.
There you go. It's her home Grand
Yes.
Prix.
ABC.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Your home Grand Prix as well.
You're NBC. Then.
I'm NBC.
NBC. What's the two NBCs? Good. But very, very excited for that. Stay tuned to Suited and Booted. We are across all of your favorite podcast broadcasting platforms. And hey, if you liked this video format, write us in, let us know so we can pressure our bosses and say, make every episode a video episode, because I kind of enjoyed this.
Me too.
Likewise.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching. My name is Daniel Woodruff,
I'm Jasmine Jafar.
We're on 10.
and that was Suited and Booted. Thank you, and drive safe.